Hi everyone, Tammy Bux here with another episode of my Radiance Wellbeing series where I highlight the wellness professionals around the Greater Vancouver and Portland area. And today we have Marisol Rascon, and she is a mind-body coach who specializes in integrative healing. And I'm so interested in this subject because we just had a little chat before this, and there are so many modalities that she brings into her practice. And so I think what I'm going to do is just let Marisol introduce herself and what she does and her areas of specialization. So Marisol, I'm going to hand it over to you.
Excellent. Thank you, Tammy. Thank you for having me here and letting me share about my work. Yeah, integrative healing, what is that? A lot of people don't quite understand like what it encompasses. I am a licensed massage therapist, so I do bring in body work practices. So I do um, deep tissue, Swedish massage, pain management for people that are having chronic pain in their body. But also I work with more subtle modalities. So I invite people to really listen to their body. I'm also certified as a craniosacral therapist. And that's a really subtle modality that really encourages deep listening in the body. And it's a beautiful way for people to start tapping into just the awareness of their nervous system as well, which is a huge part of the healing process. Um, so I bring in tools to address the physical and also to address what's going on emotionally, spiritually, looking at the person as a whole being. I have a background in shamanic healing, and I also bring that to the table with other energy modalities like Reiki healing, which more people are familiar with nowadays, and help people understand those interconnections for themselves. So, in a nutshell, that's what integrative healing is. And in addition to that, I bring in mind body coaching. So, mind body coaching is something that has been just very naturally evolved, I guess, from years of practice. I've been practicing for 20 years. I can't believe it. So, um, and a lot of times people need that extra coaching, that an extra support to help them through transitions, whether that's their wellness goals or just moving through life through different transitions or crossroads. And I bring in my background as an Ayurvedic counselor and a yoga teacher, meditation teacher to help people have access to these tools and understand how they can support themselves.
Wow, that is like, I can imagine just becoming your client, going to you, and then having like this 360-degree opportunity to really tap into every different level of what may be the root cause of layers and layers and years of any type of trauma, challenge, injury, painful life circumstance, whatever it might be, that you need to kind of peel away those layers and go deeper into the depths, like from a holistic view and at all angles. So that, yeah, that sounds amazing. I
Yeah,
love that
it's really
description.
great.
Yeah. And so I'm always interested to find out why people choose the calling or the vocation or whatever you want to call it, that they have. Like, how did you first get into what you're doing? And maybe there's a journey story there, because it seems like there's many things that you learned and then added on along the way. So if you could tell us how you first, what was your first entree into this world, this wellness world, and then how it progressed from there.
Uh, it's so funny because I think for a lot of people that are in the healing world, it's almost like a cliche, you're like trying to heal yourself, and that's how you end up getting into it. But I was actually in my early 20s. I was a teen mom, and I had a full-time job in a dot-com company. It was, during kind of that big boom. And I was seeing the progression of technology just like take over communication and everything. And there was a part of me that felt like, oh my gosh, we're going to lose touch with ourselves, with that like human connection. And I think that was the first thing that kind of sparked, let me see what else is out there. There was a calling for something more deep and connected one-on-one with people, not necessarily through chat or, instant messenger at that time and all of that. So I ended up going to an open house at a massage school, and it was wonderful. I went to this cute little space. The lady, her name was Cami, and she was director at Max Factor in her previous life that ended up opening a massage school, and definitely had this free-spirited hippie vibe about her. But they spoke my language. They were talking about the mind, body, spirit connection, and they were talking about, just listening to your intuition and things that I didn't really have a lot of people in my life at that time that I could talk to about intuition or dreams. I've always been a really active dreamer and what that means. And so I was just sold, and I joined the massage class. Had never received a massage in my life before then.
Oh,
And so it really opened up so much healing, and I didn't realize that that's what I needed. I was just pulled to it, and I did begin my own healing journey that way. I started to really notice how much tension I held in my body, and I started to also become aware of a lot of trauma that was being held inside of my body, and just noticing the patterns of holding. And so that led to one workshop, one class after another. I studied all of the electives that they offered there, from energy healing, aromatherapy, polarity healing, and then also went on to study more in depth with the breathwork teacher and shamanic healing. So I just fell in love with the completeness and also how natural it felt. I think that that was part of the origin story, is that there was the progression of technology that was taking off so fast that didn't quite feel natural. And so coming back to a rhythm that works with us just felt good, and I wanted to share that. So that's where it started.
oh, wow. That's really, really interesting. It is a lot of people I've spoken to, there's always some pull or some calling, or somehow life puts you on that path, and it may come very fluidly and flowingly, and it may be like hitting you like a semi-trailer truck, right? um, and anything in between, right? So it could be a very hard life lesson that pushes you towards something, or it could be a very gentle kind of meandering towards something that you feel like, oh, suddenly I feel this is what I'm meant to be doing, and it makes your heart feel very light and bright. So thank you for sharing that. I I think we didn't mention, so your business is called Soul Integrative, is that right?
Yes.
Okay,
So
okay. Oh, Soul.
mhm.
I'm using my Australian accent. So you say it correctly in your
Soul.
soul. So it's SOL, which is like sun,
Yes.
and but also when you say it, it sounds like soul, as in SOUL, which is beautiful.
Yeah, I
I love
felt like
that.
it was very fitting to use that. And it's also the second part of my first name. So my first name is Marisol, which is ocean and sun. So
Ah, that's a beautiful balance too. That's a beautiful. I didn't realize, yes, now that I think, I don't know why I thought it meant sunflower or something, but now you're right, because MAR is sea, ocean, right? Um, so for this business, I wonder, has there been anything that surprised you about developing this wellness business that you weren't expecting? Like sometimes you have this vision and you go forward and it all turns out kind of the way you want it, but were there any like really crazy surprises along the way, good and bad? I mean, I love to hear these kind of stories, people, or
yeah.
anything outstanding in your mind where like suddenly everything changed because of this or that, because there was this unintended fork in the road or whatever. Do you have one of those kind of fun stories which you look back later and it was fun, maybe at the time it wasn't? It was yeah, little surprising or shocking or something like that.
Yeah, absolutely. So um one of the things that stands out the most for me is that when I before I decided to do healing work full time, I was working a desk job. I had my Monday through Friday job where I had a very happy and great position in tech still, but I was not feeling satisfied in that. So on the weekends, I would see clients and just started to really immerse myself in spirituality, in Buddhism and meditation. Um, and I think this was probably around my Saturn return. So for people that are familiar with astrology, this is kind of your late 20s, early 30s, where you're kind of learning these hard lessons that kind of shape you like a diamond with pressure. And I felt like I just felt disconnected almost from the life that I was living and wanting and yearning to just run off and live in an ashram or just really dedicate my heart and my life to spirituality. But like I shared, I have a son and I had responsibilities, so I couldn't just, pick up and leave him. And so I, um, I was having a lot of inner conflict about how to still take care of my responsibilities and live my human life and also dedicate myself to a spiritual practice. And really, I think one of the things that for me was coming up was like this desire to find truth and to embody truth and to be aware and awakened and not wanting to continue this karmic cycle and reincarnate and do this whole thing again. I was just like, I want to get the lesson. I want to dedicate myself to really processing and working on the healing. So at that time, I was working with a healer and I was telling her about this, and she really encouraged me to make that leap and to strategize to create the opportunity for me to leave and be in the healing space full time. And one of the things that came from that, it took a while for me to actually be able to sustain myself from my career as a healer or doing healing work. But I never imagined how gratifying and how this work was actually part of what my spiritual journey was supposed to be. I think that was the surprise. I think that oftentimes there's, you know, you see the monks or you see the people that are dedicated to their practice, and then you have your householders, right? And when you're in the process of finding the balance for yourself, it can be so achy to integrate that higher wisdom and the day-to-day living. And I found that in my service and my work, that actually was the key for me to stay grounded and embodied and actually work to heal and to bring awareness into my experience, if that makes sense. So that was a big surprise, because it was so painful for me. I remember being in a class when I was learning Ayurveda, and I was talking to the teacher, and he said, there's two paths that you can take. Both will get you to enlightenment if you are committed, and it's not that one is better than the other. And it was almost like a light went off for me, because I never thought that with all of the distractions, all of the stress, all of the cooking and cleaning and laundry and everything else, that I would even have time to be able to dedicate myself to that kind of path. And the service work really helped bring it together. And yeah, for people that are familiar with yoga, so it's like that karma yoga, that union of putting into action what you do in the world and how it comes forward, how it comes back. So that was really, really special.
Oh my goodness. And was there a specific moment where you knew, okay, I can leave that very reliable paycheck that's coming into my bank account every few weeks and just say goodbye and then completely focus on the healing business? Like, how did that happen? Like, was that also like really tough and painful, or did it happen more gracefully and with ease?
It was like magic. Okay, so I'll share this story
Yes.
because this is like amazing. So, I was really ready to leave my job. I was working with this shaman, and we did some work to kind of create this bridge. 2 weeks later, no kidding, I go into work. There was a bit of drama with some coworkers. I was talking to the HR lady, who I've known at this point had known for years and years. She is a lovely woman. And then she was talking to me about noticing that I wasn't happy, basically. And I was just so honest with her. And I had been able at that point to buy a home, and I had all of this financial responsibility. And I said, I can't leave. I just bought a home. Like, I don't have the luxury. I'm a single mom. Like, I have to keep doing this. And she was able to help this transition out of that job for me. And I actually got a really wonderful severance package. I was able to keep my stocks that I had in the company. That really helped cushion my transition. So financially, I received this blessing and a red carpet out of my job. And I was like, I kind of couldn't believe it. I went back to my desk, and I was just sitting there like, did that conversation just happen? And that was it. I didn't look back. I really got into my creative mind about how to, be savvy with my finances while I figured things out. And it took a while, but I opened up a wellness center and yoga studio in LA, with a friend of mine, and we co-owned the space. It was really beautiful for 6 years. And it was such an incredible learning experience. But all of that because I took the leap, and I just put my faith in what my heart was telling me. And I had so much anxiety about it, but I still did it. And that's sometimes what we have to do. And I really like to, encourage any of your listeners and anybody that comes to me, is that just because it feels uncomfortable doesn't mean that it's not the right thing. Change is scary. And there's a lot of anxiety that can come up with that. But if we train ourselves to listen to our hearts, it's going to lead us in the right direction.
Oh, that is a beautiful message. Oh my goodness. I love that. I love when things just magically align, and it's, it's the universe giving back when we have this pure heart that's open and ready to receive, then magic can happen. And I've seen it in my own life. I've seen it in many people's lives. It doesn't mean that you don't go through really tough times and challenges and heartache and heartbreak and on many different levels. And it's just that sometimes these beautiful miracles show themselves to us and make us really believe in, the power of divine intervention, or whatever you want to call it, the
Mhm.
universe answering, source
Yeah.
coming, shining through. And it's funny how we become so negative, and we're always doubting that magic can't happen, but magic can happen, and many times it's just the right thing at the right time. And it doesn't mean that we don't have any of those responsibilities anymore. I love that saying, what you were telling me before about, the laundry and the cooking and the cleaning and the mortgage payments and all of that. There's that very famous saying that before enlightenment, chop wood and carry water.
Yeah.
After enlightenment, chop wood and carry water. You still have to do all of those mundane chores and physical necessities that allow our lives to move forward. And at the same time, and it is weird, like this dual, um, you know, uh, earthbound and heaven-bound kind of vessel. So we've got divine and earthly energies that commingle, and
Mhm.
getting that balance right. As you said, sometimes it's this yearning. I also have felt it and seen it in so many people, this yearning to just like not really be that connected to the physical world. But we're here, we're incarnated in this physical body for a reason, right? We're here to um, learn lessons, but I often say we're here to learn how to love and how to be loved.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So often in the well-being space, there's a lot more direct experience in one's own life, and in the connection with our community and our clients and our students and whoever they might be. And it just makes one's life so much richer, so much more vibrant. Um, to be able to create these connections, it's like a mirror. It's like when you help someone, they're flourishing, they're thriving, is like a mirror shining back on you, and you just become so much more, you have more energy and more expansion that's kind of limitless
Mhm.
in
It's
yeah.
wonderful, and that's, I think, one of the reasons why I've felt so passionate about healing work and energy work, and everything is energy. And I was just having this conversation with a friend of how exciting it is that science now is available to actually validate what the ancient healers and the earth traditions and the wisdom keepers have known for thousands of years, like, why were these people meditating out in caves? Like, what are they thinking? Right. Well, then now, we can see, like, wow, there's more focus. There's like such a depth of, you know, wellness in all capacities within their body, even, when they are able to get to a certain mind state. And so, there's just so much that is available to us. to have those experiences like you were talking about, right? When you're in alignment with your heart, with your mind, then you start to really experience life in a different way. And life can move so fast, and there's so much information that can come to us, and make us feel overwhelmed with the news, not just of our community, but now like global issues. And it can feel like too much. But if we're able to use these tools to really center into our hearts and what we can still do and how we can still enjoy life, then we start to see these little miracles and these little blessings in our day to day and with the people that we meet. And that's really, I think part of what we're here to also experience. So,
Mm. Oh, I love this conversation. Could keep on going on and on and on. There is another question that I did want to ask, and it's about maybe a lesson that you learned from an interaction with a client or a student or something. I often feel that our students or our clients are our best teachers, and there's very great stories people have to share about some interaction or a relationship that you had. So I'm not sure if you've had time to think about it beforehand, but anything that comes to mind in particular you think people would be happy to hear about? And you don't need to, you can depersonalize it or whatever, but
of course. It's so funny because I think this is such a perfect like segue question, because we were talking about these mirrors, right? And one of the things that's still to this day, I've been doing supportive healing work for a long time. To this day, I am still like, wow, how sometimes what I need to hear or what I'm working on healing is when a client walks in the door and is like, oh, I'm really, struggling with this, and it's almost like the universe is preparing me in a very specific way to hold space for what my clients are going to need. And that's such a beautiful thing. So I think that that's one of the things that I really, enjoy, just having that opportunity to witness and also be witnessed without even knowing that that's happening. But it's really beautiful. And also in the intuitive realm, when we do get to work with more of the deeper subconscious stuff, how transformative those things can be for people. And that energy like gives us a lift. And I'm sure you've experienced this. You teach qigong, and you also hold space very beautifully for lots of people. And sometimes we're busy with our lives, and maybe we're not feeling as radiant as we'd like to feel, right? But we still show up and we do and we're holding space. And then afterwards you just feel all this energy and you're like, oh my God, I feel so much better now, because you're in this like bubble of like good yumminess of energy, and you also receive it, and I think that's where the witnessing and witness also play a big part in it. So that's one of the things that I love about working with people at this capacity.
Yeah, it's incredible. It's incredible, that transformative power of something that I speak about a lot is like opening the vessel. Like, this calling is a calling, right? Whatever you say, when none of us are going to be billionaires from doing what we're doing. Maybe some might be, but that's not why you get into it, right? But the calling draws you towards something so passionately, so focused in a focused way, you just can't help but do this thing, right? This thing that you're called to do, whether it's teaching or healing or coaching, any type of wellness, well-being kind of profession. And it's so interesting that you may come forward with that slightly lower energy, not quite right there, but definitely there's such a transformation when you just give yourself over and say, look, this is an empty vessel, source, universe, divine, Mother Earth, whatever you want to say, just move what you need to move through me out to whoever is there in front of me or with me, and allow it to heal or address whatever that they're yearning inside of them. And then when it actually happens, you get that slingshot back, and then whatever you were worried about before evaporates in that moment, because actually time and space almost doesn't exist. Like, I'm sure you know it so well that when you're in the flow, you're in alignment, whatever it might be that you're doing, it's just like you've got a direct connection, feet in the earth, spirit from the heavens and the sky, intermingling, moving through you, moving out of you to someone else, and that creating that energy field, that vortex that is unstoppable and is palpable. It's I again call it love. I just call it love because I can't describe it any other way. It's connection, it's love, it's what we're here for. What we're here for is to make each other's lives better. I'm going to start getting emotional now because it's why we're here. And not just people, like you can connect to the earth, to the trees, to the birds, to the animals, to the creatures, to the unseen, to the seen, to the weather, all of the elements, anything you can choose to connect and be in a relationship with and have that feeling of love and gratitude and appreciation, and then everything changes, right?
Yeah.
And then you think, my goodness, I am so glad that I'm alive at this moment, doing what I'm doing, who I am, why I'm here. And then every single thing that was bothering you kind of starts to melt away for a certain amount of time. And then you get back to real life sometimes. Right. But yeah, I know what you're saying completely.
But that's the reward, right? And that's why I think, in my work and what I offer, that's what keeps me motivated to keep doing it, because it's so needed. Without the opportunities, and we all have the opportunities, so that's not the right word, but without the awareness of how magical that kind of interaction can be, then life can be so dim for some people, and there's a lot of suffering too. In Buddhism, there's, a lot of the teachings are based on, the inevitability of pain and suffering being a part of life. But that's not to say that that's where we're meant to stay. That's just kind of part of the yin and yang. That's the part of the balance. And so we have to have an opportunity to touch that goodness, that love energy, so that we can continue to endure and balance out when life takes us on a roller coaster or a unexpected turn, and so I think that we create those moments of balance for ourselves and for others, and that's really beautiful. I mean, how lucky are we?
Very, very, very fortunate. And I feel so blessed to have met you, Marisol, and to have invited you onto this discussion today. It's been fabulous. We went all sorts of places. Again, I never know where we're going to go in these talks, and so I'd love to for you to let people know how to get in touch with you, and what I'll do is also I'll put it in, writing at the bottom, your website, your Instagram, whatever, where you physically have your places of work and that kind of thing. So I'll just let people know about
All
that.
right. Thank you. I am, my website is soulintegrative.com. So you can find out more about my services on my website. And I am on social, so you can find me on Instagram mostly at Soul Integrative, and also on YouTube at Soul Integrative, TikTok, same. So I'm on the social things. But you can also find out what I'm up to on my website. You can sign up for my newsletter, and I try to be consistent with that and give little tips and updates through that. And I do see clients virtually, so I do see coaching clients remotely, and I also have a beautiful little space in Uptown Vancouver, and I see clients from my space there in Uptown. So
Lovely. Okay. Well, it's been such a pleasure talking to you, and I want to thank you so much. And wish you all the best for this coming year, for your business and personally, and wishing you well and thanking you so much for being here.
thank you so much, Tammy. This was great. I appreciate it.
We'll see you next time, everybody.